following program contains scenes of violence. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, FTW wrestling fans. My name is Emir Blackbane Costello, and I'd like to welcome you to the first ever episode of the FTW podcast. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me here. For us, this is history in the making. I personally wanted to do a podcast for a long time, and I've been lucky to be a part of this FTW group where I've been given the opportunity to get my thoughts on to audio recording for everybody's listening pleasure, which is a great feeling. And you should all give yourselves a round of applause. I've noticed that the group has continued to grow. We have over 54,000 members, and people are adding their friends, brothers, sisters, dogs, whoever, daily, which is wonderful for the group because I just like to hear all the different opinions being expressed and see who everybody likes, and it just makes for a lot of really fun interaction. Speaking of interaction, by the way, I think this podcast is going to be a lot more fun if I can get the rest of the group to interact with me while doing it. So I've taken the liberty to create an email address for which people can send in their questions and topics that they want to hear me discuss. And I've decided to spice it up a little bit from time to time. I'll even email you guys what time I'll be recording so that people can call in and have their thoughts shared live on the air. Thank you, by the way, for supporting this podcast. And in this inaugural episode, the first ever episode of the FTW podcast, I have decided that there really is only one topic that we should be discussing right now. And that, my friends, is the Beast incarnate. I could listen to that all day. Paul Heyman, the way he says Brock Lesnar's name, it's like he's coming from the back of that man's throat, like he's gonna hock a loogie at any moment. It's really fantastic. Let's listen to just a few more of that Brock Lesnar compilation there. And there you have it with that Brock Lesnar compilation. Paul Heyman saying his name. I could listen to that all day. In fact, I think I'm going to set that as my alarm. You know, but speaking of Brock Lesnar, the thing about it is people have no in-between when it comes to Brock Lesnar. They either love the guy, think he's fantastic, think he's a beast, can't wait to pack up their bags and take a vacation to Suplex City, or they hate the guy. They hate the fact that he only comes around once in every, blue moon. And they hate the fact that when he does come around, regardless of who's been working their butt off, Brock Lesnar gets put to the top of the card. He gets the spotlight shown on him, and all of a sudden everything happening on the show that night becomes about Brock Lesnar. And if that's the kind of thing that makes you upset, then something that's really going to piss you off that happened this week is Brock Lesnar getting the cover of WWE 2K17. Now, I've seen some people that thought this was a great thing, and I've seen other people say that they will not even be buying the game this year because they don't want to see Brock Lesnar on the cover. They don't think that he deserves to be there. And so I say, let's discuss this for a minute, because the two sides of the argument are very simple here. Do you deserve to be on the front cover of a video game when you only wrestle part-time? Well, I say, if when you wrestle part-time, you produce better ratings and you sell more merchandise part-time than the people who are there full-time, then you have that star power. But again, I'm not in the wrestling ring. I'm not taking bumps. I'm not traveling up and down the road over 300 days of the year, missing time with my family. But I just think that if you don't have Brock Lesnar's spot and you want to get there, you got to find a way to get yourselves over, boys. You can't be mad at Brock Lesnar. We've seen figures like this all the time. People get mad at Kobe Bryant. Say Kobe Bryant doesn't pass the ball enough. And what happens when he passes the ball? A lot of times his teammates miss and people get mad at Kobe Bryant. Why didn't you take the shot? So it comes down to it is when people are the face of something and they're the most important and they're the most popular, you got to build the show around them, because without them, there's a whole slew of fans who wouldn't be there. One thing I am upset about, though, and I will speak on this, is Brock Lesnar is going to show up at UFC 200 for a big, big fight while he's still under a WWE contract. How do you guys feel about that? I mean, personally, I think it's bullshit. And the reason why is because I just look at every time the WWE's tried to reach out to a UFC star to get them to make a cameo at a WWE event or to get them to potentially wrestle a match. And it seems like Dana White is never really willing to do business. He doesn't want to risk his talent getting hurt in a WWE ring and possibly setting his business back. And that's smart, and I understand that. But then all of a sudden you look up and Brock Lesnar is going to go fight in the UFC while he's under a WWE contract. And everybody's thinking, what just happened here? Where's Vince McMahon in all this? The guy who claims to have, the big cojones, the giant grapefruits, damn it. Where is that guy? Where is Vince McMahon? And how is it possible that he let something like this happen? Let's take a look at some of these stories that Crystal Richards, one of the admins of the FTW page, put up. And let's just take a look at all the comments here. So here's a story that Crystal put up where Stephanie McMahon is being interviewed by Laura O'Reilly. And I want you to pay close attention to her response to the question I'm getting ready to read, because it really gives you a great understanding of just how much Brock Lesnar has the WWE by the balls right now. Okay? And she's wondering the same thing that we all are wondering, which is, how could the WWE possibly support one of their biggest stars, one of their main attractions, going and performing for another company while still under contract for the WWE? Is basically unheard of. There are so many superstars who have tried to do other opportunities, independent wrestling shows, and a couple episodes on a sitcom, and whatever it is. WWE always says no. Their talent is always so heavily guarded. But here's what Stephanie McMahon says about Brock Lesnar, who is going to be fighting Mark Hunt at UFC 200. She says, and I quote, "We are not supporting the fight necessarily, but again, it's not," and when she says it's not, she's referring to the UFC. "It's not a competitor to us. And the more that our superstars, and that's how we refer to our talent, the more they do outside of WWE, the more awareness it generates, and the broader the audience can be that's brought back into our properties. So we recognize the value of that." And that's a total, PC answer. You got to be politically correct. You have to make it seem like you're letting Brock Lesnar go out there and take this opportunity. And you have to spin it and make it seem like it's beneficial for you. But the truth is, it is not beneficial for you in any way, shape, or form. You're not letting Brock Lesnar do this. You just don't really have a choice. Because before too long, that contract is going to be up. That contract is going to be expiring. And when you get ready to sit back down at the table and stare across at the face that belongs to the beast, Brock Lesnar, you want to know that you did everything you could to make him happy while he was under contract with you. Because a guy like him could walk away and be a star anywhere else, anytime. And when Brock Lesnar says he wants to go fight at UFC 200 against Mark Hunt and be a part of that event, if you tell him no, he will remember that. He will remember that you didn't allow him to do what you wanted him to do. And when it comes time to sit down and talk about a contract extension, your cash cow that wrestles part-time and people only see him every now and then, he's either not going to re-sign with you at all, or he's going to make it hell to get his signature on that paper, because he has the ability to do that. He can ask for whatever he wants. If you look at Brock Lesnar, he's the only guy in the history of the WWE who's allowed to wrestle with advertisements on his shorts. If you look at his shorts, he has, it's just like when people are boxing, all the different people that sponsor them. So let's just say, for instance, it's Slim Jim. It's not Slim Jim, but if you look at Brock Lesnar's shorts, you're going to see the logos of all the different companies that sponsor him. So every time the camera gets close up on his ass, they're getting free ad time for the WWE. Now when it comes to the video game, they don't put those on Brock Lesnar's attire on the game. But when he's live in front of the cameras, he gets it. He gets what he wants, because that's how bad WWE needs to keep a guy like Brock Lesnar around. So he's got them by the balls, and there's not a lot that they can do about it. But here's what's worse. Here's where the real problem comes in at. And this is the next topic that they touch on. What happens when a guy like Brock Lesnar walks into UFC 200 to the tune of his WWE theme, because that's been confirmed as well? He will come down to his WWE music at UFC 200. So what happens when the Beast Incarnate walks down the aisle and steps into the octagon with Mark Hunt and gets knocked out? Then what? You see, in the WWE, you get to write a script. And as the writer, you can make anybody be anything you want. Brock Lesnar could be written in as a beast. But you know what else? The Miz could be written in as a beast if you want, because you're the writer and you say so. But what happens when you have a guy who's built as the Beast Incarnate, who can beat up anybody? The only guy in the company at the time that you let this guy take Super Cena, who you don't let anybody touch John Cena. Nobody gets to touch John Cena. The run that John Cena went on, everybody got beat by John Cena. How many times did Triple H have to lay down for Cena? After saying on camera that this guy sucks. But he was the face of the company. How many times Bobby Lashley, Batista, everybody, Shawn Michaels, everybody laid down for Cena. Not Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar comes back, and what happens? He not only beats John Cena, but he pummels John Cena. He tears him to shreds, bit by bit, piece by piece. John Cena didn't even have a chance. It was a very well drawn out squash match with suplex after suplex after suplex after suplex after suplex, to the point where they had to keep a counter on the side of the screen just so people would understand how many suplexes had taken place in that match. That's who Brock Lesnar is. They gave him the streak. They sent a feeble Undertaker out there to fight Brock Lesnar. And the Undertaker walked in to WrestleMania undefeated. And he didn't even walk out. The man had to be carried out and rushed to a hospital. They fed the streak to Brock Lesnar. So you built him up as this great conqueror, this amazing man. He's not even a man. He's a beast incarnate. What happens when that guy walks into the octagon at UFC 200 to fight Mark Hunt and gets knocked out or gets submitted? Because in UFC, there are no scripts. All there are is man versus man, mano a mano, hand-to-hand combat, where you find out who the real badass is. And let's not forget, Brock Lesnar doesn't exactly have a great record in the UFC. He has lost more than once to different types of guys. He's lost to small guys, he's lost to big guys. The point is, he can be touched in real life. You can't write that script. So, he bullies his way into being able to do the show that he wants to do. Then maybe things don't go according to plan. I don't know, the event hasn't happened yet. But let's say he gets knocked out or he gets submitted. What does that mean for his character in the WWE? What does that do for his character back in WWE? Is he still the badass? Is he still the beast incarnate if he goes and gets knocked out by Mark Hunt? Are people going to still be scared of Brock Lesnar? Should he still be billed as this guy who is invincible and who can beat anybody and who eats missiles for breakfast and whatever else they say about the beast? I don't know. I think if Brock Lesnar gets knocked out, I think it really changes things. And you know who agrees with me? Stephanie McMahon agrees with me. Look at her comments here when she's talking about the fact that WWE can make a star big because they have the advantage of writing their own story. And how UFC doesn't have that advantage. A guy's good as long as he's winning, and the moment he gets knocked out, the dream is over. How can you make stars like that? Here's her quote. UFC, they can make a big star, but the second that person loses, they lose credibility. And how do you continue to make the star rise? So I think we have the best of both worlds and the opportunity to tell the stories in the way that we want to tell them. Ironic what Stephanie's saying there in that statement. When somebody loses in the UFC, they don't just lose the match. They also lose credibility. And that won't be any different for Brock Lesnar. If he loses this match, he too will lose credibility. Now, some people don't necessarily believe that. When they asked JR if a loss hurts Lesnar's reputation and drawing power in the WWE, his response was, "Nah, I don't think so." I can certainly see why that question would be asked, and it's a good question. I think that people are now, with all the information on social media, I think people can differentiate a real sport, UFC athletic event, from a structured, theatrical-based presentation in sports entertainment. I just don't think it would hurt them at all, quite frankly. Now, I don't want to sit here and disagree with good old JR, Jim Ross, because I love the guy. And in my opinion, he is absolutely every bit of the Hall of Fame announcer and the best man I've ever heard on the mic. But I disagree. I don't think just because it's the age of social media and people understand that WWE is scripted and the outcomes are predetermined, and UFC is supposedly not, and it's about the real fights and who can really knock out who. I don't think that that protects Brock Lesnar's credibility. I think it's very easy for people to look at him and go, "Oh yeah, look at this guy." Pretty easy to pick up a win when that's how they write it. But you get your ass kicked in real life. And that's what I believe. I think that JR is giving the fans, and maybe even the boys in the back, the benefit of the doubt. But in this scenario, he shouldn't. Because when you bill a man to be invincible, and then somebody comes along and touches him and knocks him off his feet, that definitely changes things. So that takes us back to the question of, why exactly would Brock Lesnar even risk that? Why would he even go back to the UFC and be involved in that fight? Well, let's let him answer that question.
that's our gig. But this is a totally different realm for Brock Lesnar. This is a return to UFC during their biggest show in history, UFC 200, Saturday, July 9th, from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. So the big question, obviously, first is, why?
Why? Why? I guess because I want to. That's why. And that's the only reason anybody should do anything, right? Because you want to. I know you and I have been friends for a long time. We've been business associates, and you've known me for a long time. You helped jumpstart my career. Now here we are, how many years later? Let's not age ourselves. But why is, I'm sure I'm going to get asked a lot of questions, and that's going to be the main one. But why is because I want to. That's why. When I left the UFC, I didn't get to leave on my terms. And I'm not saying I'm coming back to end something that I didn't get to finish on my terms. I want to be inside the octagon again, and I want to be inside the octagon healthy. I want to be inside the octagon under my terms. When I was inside the octagon my last few fights, I believe I wasn't the man that I needed to be. I was faking it. I was faking it just to be in there. I was faking it that a disease was more powerful than me. I was faking that I was more powerful than it. I want to go back into that octagon. I want to have fun. The lasting memories of me as an Ultimate Fighter aren't very good ones because of the discomfort and the pain and just the unhealthiness of it. And I felt I needed to be in the octagon to beat this disease. And I ended up getting beat by foes that in my mindset I should have never lost to. I lost to diverticulitis. I lost to, I'm man enough to sit here and say I lost to Cain Velasquez. I lost to Alistair Overeem. But the losses, I'm not here to avenge any loss, other than to avenge the loss that I took against diverticulitis. God, I just want it. I just want it, Paul.
You know, when we wrote your book, we went into great detail about how sick you were, that you almost died at your brother's house in Canada. But here's something that has never been revealed. You were sick way before you even got into the octagon. So this is really the first time the world has ever seen a healthy Brock Lesnar truly compete.
All I know is that life is all about timing, and the timing for me on this just feels right. I feel great, and I'm ready to do this. I'm just ready to do it. I've been ready for a while, and I'm just glad for the opportunity.
You going to do a training camp?
Absolutely. Am I going to do it? I'm going to do a training camp.
No, but I mean, on your own, or are you going to join another squad?
No, we're going to do this the old-fashioned way, just like we did it before. I'm hiring coaches. I'm hiring training partners, and we're getting geared up already. I mean, it's already put together. I got lots of help. I got lots of people that are excited about this. None of them are more excited than me, and they feel that. They see it, they hear it, and so it's exciting. It's very exciting for me.
Marty Morgan again is your lead coach?
Marty Morgan, yeah, the list goes on. But there's guys that want to be a part of this, and they want to be a part of it not just because they want to be part of it. They want to be part of it because genuinely they're good people and they want to help. And those are the kind of guys that I want in my corner. And like previous years, they were all there for me, and they'll be in my corner again.
How do you approach stepping into a legitimate athletic competition, a fight, differently at 38 than you would in your early 30s?
I don't feel any older. I don't sit here and take myself back into time and wonder how I felt back then, I go with how I feel right now, and I feel really good, and that's all I can really gauge. That's all I can go by. Why would I want to go back and compare myself? I think I've got a statement to make, and I'm going to come into this. I'm approaching this 100%. I'm all in. I'm 1,000% in on this. So I've got lots of support. My family, my friends. It wasn't a hard decision. It wasn't. Dana White didn't call me up for this. I made the phone call. So this is, you can't get into the octagon half-assedly. Nor would I make the call if I wanted to half-assedly get in the octagon, because I'm smart enough. I know how dangerous it is. It's a dangerous sport. I wouldn't put my health at risk for my family, by no means. My head is in the game on this. I'm 100% all in. All in. No doubts in my mind. No doubt at all.
So there you have it there, those comments coming straight from the horse's mouth. Brock Lesnar, who says that he is 1,000% in. And how shocked are you to find out that it wasn't Dana White who called him and approached him about coming back at UFC 200, but according to Brock Lesnar, he made the call. Now, for those of you who are loyalists to wrestling and to the WWE, I gotta ask, do you see that as a stab in the back? That he would try to cross back over like that? That it was his idea? That he wants to get back in the octagon? Or do you understand where he's coming from? A man who's used to being the champion of everything he does, who's used to dominating everybody. And he got into the UFC and he had his ass kicked by several people, a few of them that he named. And he just wants another chance to go at it while he's healthy and prove that he is the beast. I want to hear from you guys. I want to know what you guys think about Brock Lesnar. I also want to get the predictions. Is Brock Lesnar going to win at UFC 200? Or is it going to turn out to be a mistake that he got back in the octagon? When you guys have a chance, send me your questions and comments. There's an email address that the FTW podcast can be reached at, and that's FTW, the number 3, the word 6, and the number 5 at gmail.com. Again, that's FTW365 at gmail.com. I want to know your thoughts on Brock Lesnar. Does he walk in there and get his ass kicked? Or does he knock out Mark Hunt? Perhaps submit Mark Hunt? Maybe even win by decision if the fight goes that long? And then shows up for SummerSlam, being able to tout the fact that not only can he come in here and perform and go between the ropes of the squared circle, but whenever he wants, he can go and fight a real fight and still come out on top. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. This was the first episode, and I hope to do many, many more. Send me an email with your feedback, questions, comments, and I look forward to having some of you guys call in and talk with me on the show, because I don't intend to be doing this every week and talking to myself. I want to hear from you guys. And I'll also be hitting you guys up in the group so I can just get your feedback. I'll be watching UFC 200, and let's see what Brock Lesnar is able to do. But before we take off, I just want to hear a few more seconds of that compilation clip, because I really like the way that Paul Heyman says Brock Lesnar. Thanks again for listening. I'm your host, Emir Blackbane Costello, and I will see you next week.
Brock Lesnar! Brock!